This is Unfiltered. I am Edward Enejo. If you found your way here, enjoy the ride, but remember to keep it a little secret. Now, this is the first episode of The Unfiltered, and the truth is that I should have done this a very long time ago, and I have been putting it away and saying that somebody else should, take it on, and all of that. It actually took a friend of mine who is currently in the US who reached out to me and said, Edward, now is the time. You have to go all out and do this. And I was like, oh my gosh. And maybe that's why I wrote there the musings of a reluctant storyteller. Now, on this Unfiltered podcast, I am going to be telling lots of stories, looking at things from my perspective, just like I communicated in the trailer. And some of it will be debunking dogmas, common or popular opinions and beliefs. And it's really going to be candid. And I'd really, really love it to be a conversation. So if something struck you, or maybe you do not even agree with what I said, right? You can leave it in the comment and let's have a conversation around this, because this is a conversation that I usually have, in my close space, sometimes in my head, and those who are within my circle of influence, and we kind of look at things from different perspective. And it's my hope that this Unfiltered series will open up your mind or your eyes to the possibilities and opportunities that are prevalent in this dispensation. And so let's get into it. So this is Unfiltered. In this episode, I have called it the Genesis because it's the start of something new. So what I want to talk about today is about the concept of time. First, we must understand that the times have changed and it has its implications. It comes with some opportunities, some advantages, some disadvantages, but hey, we still have to move on, even given the fact that the times have changed. So, why am I talking about this? I think you may ask. So, when you do understand and know how to leverage the opportunities that are prevalent in these times that we're in, you will be better equipped to position yourself to take advantage of them to advance your life, your career, your business, or anything that is very important to you. It's kind of like, the surfer who anticipates the perfect wave and rides on it. The truth is that your ability to understand the perfect wave and ride on it is what will make you a very, very, like talking about, the concept of the surfer, that's what will help you have a very, very smooth, surfing experience. I remember when the internet emerged and some people were thinking about, oh, this is just, it will come and go and all of that. And being an African origin, I remember we had to go to the cyber cafe to buy airtime and access the computer and check our email and do things like that. And the truth is that some people just thought that it's just one of those things, it will come and go. But I realized that those people who took advantage of it, or fast forward the time of Twitter, those people who were the early adopters, who were able to build a following, leverage on it, communicate with it very well, they were able to build a brand and build a business and things like that. So, in this time that we live in, I do believe that while there are a lot of opportunities as well, it is those who will be able to, like I mentioned earlier, identify the perfect wave and ride on it, more like the early adopters of the tools and the technology available right now. These are the people that are going to be able to use it to advance their career, build their business and become an enigma, like a friend of mine would, kind of put it. So, when I talked about understanding the seasons, I remember it was Tony Robbins I was listening to. He was talking about, pattern recognition and things like that. That the truth is that some people have settled down and observed and notice that every 40 years, every 30 to 40 years, there is a significant thing that happens in the world at large. It could be world war, it could be like most recently the global pandemic. And those who were able to have caught the pattern and recognized that every 30 or 40 years something happened, there were actually some people who were kind of expecting the COVID 19, right? Or not like the COVID 19 in particular, but what it created, the impact that it created, which is the global pandemic. It led to a global shutdown. Now, of course, I'm not so sure if they were, specifically able to anticipate it as, COVID-19. No, but it was like understanding that every 30 to 40 years, something could happen and it could make the society better. It could actually make, the society suffer a loss or a negative impact. But the point is that every 30 to 40 years, yeah, there is an event that occurs that changes the global trajectory. I was reading on Reddit and someone had posted that the global event in 2020 changed all of us in different ways. It is as if time stopped, but at the same time, it didn't. And that is very interesting because the time did not stop, but it changed how we live, how consumers behave, how people, kind of work online. You saw things like remote working. It was like, there's a big man up there who, the way I put it, right, it's like there's a big man up there who was telling the world to play catch up because more people embraced remote working. The world became more connected. And as a result of that, there are lots of tools that have emerged, and I mean digital tools, okay? For instance, the generative AI and things like that. And this generally created a new normal. So life is no longer the way we knew it to be. And as a result of that, also, there are certain principles or certain ways of doing things that it kind of made them come across as obsolete. And I would explain. So, for instance, I remember back in the days that there are typewriters or typists rather, people who have mastered, writing in shorthand. They have mastered how to use the typewriter and things like that. And I mean, for what it's worth, they were the superstars of the time. And if you know that skill, I mean, I'm talking about way back. I can't remember the period in time, but I'm talking about way back. Some people do not even know what a typewriter looks like in this generation. Some people do not know that there was something called shorthand. And but back in the days, it was like the big thing. If you had that, you have an unfair advantage over others who did not have that kind of skill. But the truth is that with the advancement of technology, it made that skill obsolete. And for those who did not, pivot, those who did not improve themselves, they were left behind. They kind of went extinct like the dinosaur. And again, leveraging on the concept of pattern recognition, if the people who are in this dispensation do not recognize what is going on, like it's like the history is repeating itself again. There are some people who are standing at the risk of going extinct. Trust me, this is true. It is scary, but it is the truth. And what we'll need to do is to understand that that event, that global pandemic in 2020, created a new time zone. And so some people are living in the previous time zone. And I mean, living there or arguing that, this is not going to go away. I'm still going to be relevant with what I know. This is how I've always done it. And things like that. I mean, arguing and being adamant and stubborn and all of that is going to make, such people stay in the past. And eventually, I mean, it's just going to go extinct. I'm reminded of the story of Who Moved My Cheese. Very interesting story. In my, I mean, I used it in my previous career as a trainer, and I use it to train change management. And it's very, very sweet. So there are two sets of people. The first set of people were like, this cheese is still here, and they kept on digging. No, the cheese is still here, it's still here, and all of that. But the other people who were, very creative, imaginative, optimistic, they were forward thinking. They knew that this cheese is about to finish, and we have to look for new cheese. All right. I mean, you can go and just watch it yourself and understand it. The truth is that the cheese will always move. For those guys who did not move with the cheese, or they moved quite late, right? They suffered, were depressed, they were just worried and anxious and all of that. But those who moved with the cheese, they were the guys who did not have to suffer and experience that, that unrest that it comes with not knowing, how you can be better, how to position yourself, and all of that. Bringing back the concept into our current time, the truth is that if you look at the pattern, you see the rise of remote working, even if some organizations are trying to still get back to the office, but you cannot take that totally away. A lot of businesses have now come online. You don't need a physical building to do certain things. All right. Education massively online as well. Yes, you can still create connections by going to physical classes and all of that, but it's like the world kind of embraced digital learning to another level. Okay. For those who and now you see more digital communities, right? It's like we have entered into a new renaissance, all right? You can call it the modern renaissance, right? Now, let me talk about what happened in the previous renaissance. The previous renaissance, you saw people like Leonardo da Vinci making new inventions. You see Michelangelo, and I mean, there are lots of them, a bunch of them in those days. They were discovering lots of things. So creation of new inventions, new discoveries and things like that. That was what the Renaissance of back in the days looked like. So art, some level of inventions, technology, and all of that. But in this modern or this new Renaissance that we are in right now, the truth is that there are certain skills you need to thrive. You need the ability to take initiative. You need the ability to, solve problems, strategic thinking, ability to communicate. And the fundamental of communicating is, yes, you speak, but it's, the organization of your thoughts. As in, if you want to put it to its smallest unit, is like your ability to write, like really write. Because when you write, you can see it. You can ask yourself, does this make any sense? Does it communicate? Think about it, whether it is X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and all of that, you have to write. Even if you're making a video, you have to write. If you're doing a podcast, you have to write. Me making this podcast, I made some bullet points, even if this is really unscripted, but I just put some bullet points because I had to write, organize my thoughts. You realize that writing is very, very important. And if you want to build communities, which is another thing in this dispensation, building communities, you have to communicate. And understanding this is like knowing how to position yourself in this modern renaissance. And I like to think about the modern renaissance like a digital society. And this is very interesting. It's kind of like if you've seen the movie The Bridgerton before. If you've not seen it, it's very interesting, and it has some other, expressions like Queen Charlotte and the likes. But The Bridgerton, I believe that one of the most influential person, other than the Queen and the Queen's friend, I think Lady Danbury, I think is Lady Whistledown, because she was faceless. She wrote a newsletter or article, and everyone was looking forward to it. As a matter of fact, she could write things that made people feel bad or make people feel good. She is one of the people who created change, one of the people who influenced her society. And I do think that in our current society, which is kind of digital, okay, the previous society, or using the Bridgerton as an experience, right? They go to the ball, they look at, who dress well, or they talk about, things that is happening in this family, in that family, who got pregnant, who lost their job. It is quite of interesting. But in so many ways, I think that what happened in the Bridgerton is still happening now, but it's more like we are in a digital society. So it's a digital society characterized by digital communities like, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. LinkedIn, somewhere is, oh, I'm excited to share that I've been promoted. I just acquired a certificate and all of that. It's like saying, hey, I just bought this new dress. Does it look good on me? And everybody's, oh, yes, it looks good on you. Like they're putting comment, congratulations and things like that. It's like you acquired something nice. You show it off in the digital society, and they say, oh, that was good and all of that, which I think is it's more like what happened in the Bridgerton and where they gathered at the ball, you know. But you know, coming back and really looking at it for what it's worth and where we are now, there is a digital society. The question is, how are you showing up in this digital society? You have to know that there are tools, such as the one I've mentioned before, that if you know how to use these tools or the skills rather, you will be able to take advantage and position yourself, whether you're building a business or you're trying to create change, you're advocating, maybe you're working in the social impact space, for instance, trying to champion certain things, maybe to talk more about people who are neurodiverse, or you want to advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, or you want to, one of those things that are on the sustainable development goals, for instance, knowing how to navigate the digital society is very important because it's where everything happens. That's where we have created lots of communities right now, and you can make change knowing how to navigate the digital society. So I'd like to say that if there is one thing that I think will help people thrive in this new renaissance, it is to embody the mindset of the past champions of Renaissance. And I think that some of those things are things like, imagination, creativity, not getting locked in, this is how we've always done it. I would do it this way. This is how we've always done it. And things like that. You have to be creative and you have to be authentic. Now, authenticity is not what most people think it is. Authenticity doesn't mean it's an excuse for you to be brash and insensitive and just think about something, just say it the way it is. Some people have confused authenticity to be that, which I think it's not really the case. Authenticity requires you to be consistent because if they know you for certain things, the truth is that irrespective of the circumstance, you would still retain that. And people will say that this person is authentic. If they say somebody is fake or somebody is inauthentic, it's because today you show up as A, tomorrow you show up as B, next tomorrow you show up as C, and you're just changing. You're not authentic. So authenticity requires one to be consistently authentic or authentically consistent, right? So there's a level of consistency that is required, and it requires you to be disciplined, to be consistent. Now that's one of the things that I think that most of the people in this generation, I don't think they want to be consistent, and so they disguise under I'm being authentic and things like that. And for me, I don't think that is an excuse to be disrespectful, to to have that lack of humanity and all of that. So anyway, that's that was just a segue. But back to the conversation, I talked about different things that the kind of mindset we need to embody to be able to thrive in this new renaissance. I said imagination and creativity, and now went on to say authenticity. And I think one other thing is to rise above the fear of failure. I think that the fear of failure is one of the things that hold most people back from trying to try new things, birth new ideas, or venture into something that it is they are really passionate about because nobody wants to fail. And especially the fact that it's a digital society, you could do something and somebody from nowhere who doesn't know you, especially on, on the Twitter street or X, For instance, just put a comment there, and it can just change how you feel. So at the back of, rising above the fear of failure is, a high level of emotional intelligence. We need to be more resilient emotionally, not letting things to get to us. And at the back of that, also, we need to be able to take risk. Yeah, we need to take risk, because if you want to master how to use the tools of this dispensation, and you're not creative, you're not authentic, you're not imaginative, you're not rise above the fear of failure, and you do not take risk, it will be like you're just standing still. You'll be living in the past. And I think it was Tony Robbins who said that if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. And if you want to be innovative, you have to stop doing what you've always done. Not that it's not good, but you have to try new things, right? And do not just be fixated on one type of idea. And honestly, like Rob Moore said, that if you do not take risk, you risk everything. And so in this modern society, in this modern renaissance or the new renaissance, and depending on how you want to call it, you need to understand that first the time have changed. And that's why you see, I mix up the word now. I think they call them the Gen Z or the millennials. I think it's the Gen Z, yeah. The Gen Zs, they are very decisive, and I think they are leveraging on the that confidence of ignorance, right? They are ignorant of certain things that have happened in the past, and they feel that, my gut tells me that if I do it this way, it's much more better. And so because they're ignorant of, or they have not seen it, and now I say that word ignorance not in an abusive way. It's more like they are not really fixated on the past. It's because of that they kind of find ways to attempt new things, right? And so you see that we have lots of people in their 20s who are now millionaires. They are championing causes, and they are leveraging on the tools that are available in the digital society. And they're building personal brand, they're building businesses, and they're doing quite a lot. But those in their 40s, their 50s, and all of that, and even beyond, it's like we have seen how things used to be in the past. And so you go to school, graduate, and you get a job, and you keep on doing it, hitting the grind, hitting the grind, hitting the grind, pay your taxes, pay your bills. And it's like we're living in a rat race. And but the younger generation, they feel that, I think that it's a better way to do this, and they have that audacity, that boldness, that confidence, and which makes them show some level of creativity that I have mentioned earlier, right? And they are not afraid to fail, because if they fail, they realize that I just discovered, one way not to do something, and have got to try another way of doing things. Like, I mean, that's like a rephrase of the quote of the man who discovered light bulb. Yeah, I mean, his name just escaped my memory right now, but I believe you get the point, right? So if you want to thrive in the digital society, then you have to shape your idea. You have to, I mean, there's so much information out there, and I feel that it is like there's so much advantages, there's so much opportunities, but they are hidden in plain sight. And so for you to be able to see it, you have to put on the lens or the mindset of the champions of the previous Renaissance. Imagine if Leonardo da Vinci had access to generative AI, Charles Darwin, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, if they had access to all the tools that we have right now, trust me, society or humanity would have advanced even way beyond now. Now, these tools are here, but a lot of us are not leveraging on it as much as we ought to. We need more people who will create change. We need more people who will champion this. And you need to take initiative. You need to act on the knowledge that you know, right? Because if you don't, we're going to stay in the past, living in the previous time zone. But again, The times have changed. So that is what I have to share with us today. So what do you think about it? What are opportunities that are, or I would say they were previously hidden in plain sight to you, but I assume that I would like to think that as a result of this conversation, you are beginning to recognize the patterns and see more opportunities available to you in your business, in your career, in your life, and you can now begin to explore new ways of leveraging on the tools that are available to us right now so that you can build a better business, build a better career, and become the best version of yourself, and ultimately change society for the better and make change generally. Yep. So I'd like to know what you think about this. There is a lot that I want to go into, but I reserve that for the second episode. And tell me what you think about it. Like I mentioned, if you found your way here, enjoy the ride, but remember to keep it our little secret. This is Unfiltered, the musings of a reluctant storyteller. There's a lot of things that wanted to stop me from launching this podcast, but I told myself I'm going to make it work. So, what have you done lately that challenged you to move outside your comfort zone? Until the next podcast, have a fantastic day. Cheers.